Hi there, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. Welcome to our newest installment of Tic Talking. It is the 20th of July 2025, 24 hours onward from Celtic humbling Newcastle United 4-0. So, welcome along to my co host Phil. Regan shall be joining us shortly. You know what he's like, rockstar lifestyle, turns up what he wants, does what he wants, that kind of stuff. But I'm
And of
sure he'll
course,
be
the
along.
irony is he was waiting on a bus,
Mhm.
and yeah, it just writes itself, Conor.
Yeah, it does, life imitates art and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so before we get started, guys, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell down below. That way you'll never miss a show. Don't forget, comment, have some discussions down below, whether you agree, whether you disagree. It's all, always fair and love and war. If we want to, have a wee back and forth, it's all good. Don't forget, you guys can live comment as well. Also, the share button allows you to share the Boys on the Bus show far and wide with all your fellow Celtic compatriots. And yeah, just any love and support, guys, is much appreciated. So, Phil, getting started, I was at the Celtic versus Newcastle game yesterday. Before anybody says, Conor, what about your boycott? My boycott still stands because I never paid for the tickets. Okay, I
Ah,
was very much on here saying, don't give them the fucking money, don't go, and then I ended up going. I didn't pay for any tickets, so my boycott still stands. Okay, I didn't give them a penny. Okay, I snuck in my own juice and water as well, so
uh-huh.
I didn't give them any money at all. So
Boycott
don't.
with a big asterisk next
Yeah,
to it.
yeah,
Okay, cool.
I know. Kind of following our rivals across the city, putting big asterisks next to things. But yeah, so if you guys were at the game, do let us know. It was a pretty good atmosphere, to be honest. 10,000 Geordies coming up to Celtic to watch their team get absolutely pumped by the boys. But yeah, I'd say it was a good afternoon all round. Obviously, the scorers in the 4-0 game were Arne Engels with a penalty, Johnny Kenny with a finish at the death of the first half, which I actually missed because I went to the toilet. So, because I'm like, oh, the game's like the first half's winding down, I'll nip to the toilet, get ahead of the queue. What I know in the toilet, the fucking the music starts playing.
Happens to me all the time.
I'm
There's
like,
literally
oh god, I missed a
there's
goal.
literally a
For
joke with
sake.
the boy that sits next to me because if we're having a bit of a shit game, I'll be like, I'll go to the toilet and I guarantee we'll score. On away, I seem to miss a lot of goals when I go, and usually it works. Like 9 times out of 10, I'll disappear and we end up getting a goal. So it's just
I
part
know,
and
I know.
parcel. Yep.
I know, and it was actually quite funny because every time someone with us that was sitting with us went like to the toilet, we kept scoring goals. I'm like, everybody start going to the toilet in the next 5 minutes, so you keep coming back, you keep scoring goals. But yeah, so the scorers, sorry, were Arne Engels, Johnny Kenny, Yang, and Liam Scales. I do think it was a very impressive performance. I feel like the two halves were kind of different in the way we kind of performed. I feel like in the first half we had the kind of old-fashioned, typical Brendan Rodgers kind of horseshoe with a
Mm-hmm.
passing between the bag, which always does my nutting. But in the second half, I thought we stepped up the ante a bit and we pressed them really hard as well, which is something we've seen against Sporting Lisbon, which worked to great effect. So if this is a tactic, obviously I've said before, that Brendan Rodgers is going to implement, I'm quite happy with that. So players that impressed me yesterday were Austin Trusty, Callum McGregor, Kieran Tierney, the young lad Ben McPherson, Benjamin Nygren, and Inamura. But Phil, I want to get your verdict on it. I know you didn't actually see the game, but you
I
see
was boycotting, yeah.
just out in you there, mate. You didn't
It's all
even
right.
go on the dodgy fire stick to watch it. You had a
I,
proper
I know I
boycott,
don't
mate.
have one. People in the chat have said that. Said, Phil, get a fire stick. And I
I
don't have one,
mean,
unfortunately.
you
No,
need to
I
get
had to
ahead of
do
the
with
game on that,
YouTube
man.
highlights. I had to make
To
do
get
with
ahead
that.
of the game on that, my son. Not that you get much
Oh.
better quality anyway. It buffers at the time. You have to, search, for 10 different sources, and you have to listen to, delayed commentary by Peter Grant, which is like getting your teeth drilled by the fucking dentist, to be honest.
Yep.
So Phil, what's kind of like your verdict on the performance and the result? Like, what do you think it means?
I think first of all it is an impressive victory. I know I've said on recent episodes that years ago Gordon Strachan made a comment about Celtic are the only team that can be in crisis during pre-season after we'd taken a doing in a pre-season game against Man United. But so since then I've always had a whatever result doesn't really bother me too much. It is all about getting fitness and minutes in the legs. But at the same time, a good result is obviously is going to go a long way. It boosts a bit of confidence. You said there about the this time last year, beating Man City and Chelsea as well in the United States. That gave us a real feel good atmosphere going into the new season last year. This so far this pre-season, we've that is what it is. Obviously, we had that loss in Portugal against Estrela. And obviously we beat Cork City, but the two most recent games are two teams that are in the Champions League, and regardless of what level they're at right now in the pre-season, it's still pretty good to beat a team like Sporting Lisbon and Newcastle. 6 goals over 2 games, none conceded. There's definitely positives there to take from it. I'm encouraged to hear you say as well about Austin Trusty playing well. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter and whatnot hyping him because I know we've got a big debate about the left centre back position, and last season I think there was obviously moments where I think we all came to the conclusion that both Austin Trusty and Liam Scales have got a lot of deficiencies, it seems. But if you asked me to pick one, I would say I'd always prefer to go with Austin Trusty. We paid a big amount for him by our standards, so hopefully it was just first season. Just one of these things where just didn't quite click. In second season, he finds his rhythm now. Because so you're not the first person I've heard in the last day saying about how well he played against Newcastle.
Yeah, it was really, really impressive. He was making a lot of last-ditch tackles, heading the ball away, kind of shepherding, Newcastle away from the danger area and stuff like that. It reminded me a lot of his performance against Atalanta in the Champions League last season, which, that is the best I've seen him play in a Celtic shirt in months, a long time. So I am quite happy to see him, looking a bit better. I mean, I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch. I still think we could be doing massively with improving that centre half position to partner someone alongside Carter Vickers, maybe even getting someone else in to kind of not replace Carter Vickers, because I think he's almost irreplaceable, but he is going to end up getting injured throughout the season, undoubtedly. So there is going to be at times we're going to need another centre half in there to take his spot, and whoever that may be, I don't know, but I do think there is something there where we could be looking to, get somewhere in just to kind of, plug that gap, as it were. But Phil, there's been an interesting kind of narrative kind of spilling out from this this result, and it goes with we can't get carried away. It's pre-season, stuff like that. Newcastle had only played one previous game before this, stuff like that. Blah blah blah. But the narrative is coming up that it's shut certain people up, and especially English Premier League fans who say that Celtic couldn't compete down south. There are Farmers League team, Sunday League team, Pub League team, all the usual rigmarole that these fucking tourist football fans need to come away with. There are people who have never been near the city of Liverpool support Liverpool, and people who fucking live down in York, live in Yorkshire supporting fucking Arsenal. Just all these absolute melts that just cling on to these big name teams that because they think they'll they can garner some joy and success out of it because it's a big name, because there's a lot of money in it. But the narrative has always been that Celtic couldn't compete with the clubs down south and that because of the gap and wages and stuff like that. But I think it just goes to show, with the result against Newcastle, with the results last season in the pre-season against Man City, and recent Club World Cup winners, Chelsea. That I think we can hold our own. And I did put a comment to a Newcastle fan who was give it a big saying, this should never happen, we should never get beat off of Celtic, they play in a shit league, and they're not a team that should be beating us. I'm saying, well, that's not necessarily fair, because Celtic is a club which historically has made its name and earned its respect by punching above our weight. Historically, not even talking about 1967, I'm talking about throughout our history. 13 years ago, we beat Barcelona, and that team was the best club side I think the world has ever seen. And Celtic beat them at Celtic Park. We beat, the previous Champions League holders in AC Milan, who had guys like Kaká and Shevchenko and that in their team, guys like that. That Celtic is a team who historically have punched above their weight and done well and took some major, major scalps in Europe. I mean, last season, a club like RB Leipzig, who have unquantifiable amounts of finances and backing behind them, and one of the most competitive leagues in the world in Germany. We absolutely took them to the cleaners. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know how you feel, mate, but I think it just goes to show to me that Celtic still to this day, on our day, we can certainly mix it with the big boys. And there's a couple of teams, not saying things too early, but there's maybe a couple of teams, especially Premier League teams, that are going to be playing in the Champions League that might want to watch out for little old Celtic.
Yeah, well, Newcastle is one of them, aren't they? Newcastle qualified in 5th place because UEFA decided, we'll give England a 5th place Champions League spot as well. But they are in there along with Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City, and Chelsea are all in. So there's a few English teams that we could get. The thing is with these teams is they are very open, and I think that benefits us when we're playing a team that opens up, because you're not going to get Newcastle coming up there on Saturday, or we'll sit with 10 men behind the ball and we'll just stifle Celtic. They were obviously going to come up and play their usual game, which is a very open and expansive game of football. And that benefits us massively. I think the games of the last couple of years under Brendan since his return that have been a tough watch are those ones where it's a team like a Ross County or something like coming to Celtic Park, 10 men behind the ball, just stodging it up, time wasting, just frustrating us. These are the games that, that's what we do feel a bit like we struggle. We see a lot of the ball, but we just can't break through the 10 man. And the horseshoe that you talk about there, that's when it happens. When we've got a team that likes to open up and be a bit expansive, we can pick holes in them. When they start to get a bit adventurous against us, it's when teams just sit compact. That's when we seem to run out of ideas. So I don't think it's any coincidence in the last 12 months, teams like, say, beating Newcastle last year, Man City and Chelsea, these teams are going to play a very open type of game, and I think it works perfectly for us. And Brendan Rodgers, of course, he has managed down in England for many, many years, and he knows a thing or two about getting these teams. Remember in the first spell Brendan was in charge, the all-conquering Man City team under Pep, he just came in as manager. They'd won, I think, 12 games in a row in all competitions. And then they came to Celtic Park and we drew 3 each for them that night. We really gave them a right run for their money. And I'm pretty sure Man City struggled after that. I think Chelsea went on and won the league in 2017. But Man City in the early part, it was like, who's going to stop this Manchester City team? And then it was us that took points off them for the first time that season. And after that, it was like teams got an idea how to play against them. So I think, say, with teams like that, RB Leipzig as well, you highlighted there, teams that are going to be quite open, expansive, it plays into our hands, especially at home, with the advantage we've got there. So I think that's probably part of why it works so well and why we've had these results in the last 12 months.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good point. Obviously, I mean, even last season, I know we got beat, 4-2, but we had a great comeback against the Aston Villa, who came in and we made some substitutions at the end, and then all right, Regan, how's it going, mate?
All right, guys, how are you?
I'm not bad, mate.
Superb,
But
mate.
against Aston Villa, so it does show that we can kind of mix up with the big boys, and I'll probably do the squad and a lot of young boys, like a lot of confidence. So Regan, I'll just quickly ask you, since you're here. Obviously, we absolutely hammered the Geordies 4-0 yesterday at Celtic Park. Sent the Magpies home crying into their Newcastle Ale, and also a few unlucky Bears who happened to be in attendance, because if you didn't think we noticed, we 100% noticed, guys, because you guys were very, very clear about posting it on social media that you guys were in attendance with the Newcastle fans. So if there was any Rangers fans in attendance who happened to be watching the show, get it right up, you fucking sad bastards. But yeah, Regan, just wanting to get your opinion on the result yesterday, mate. So I was saying earlier, there was a good few players that impressed me. Austin Trusty, Ben McPherson came on, who absolutely pocketed Anthony Gordon. I think he's still got him in his pocket actually right now as we speak. Inamura, Nygren, McGregor, Tierney, and also I'm saying that due to the back of that, I kind of dismays the kind of narrative that a lot of English Premier League fans have, that Celtic play in a shit league, we're a shit team, you know, we're a Sunday League level team, pub level team, but I'm saying that now we can mix up with the big boys, and historically we have took massive scalps off teams, and not just recently, but like RB Leipzig, Chelsea, Man City, and now Newcastle. So I'm just wondering, Regan, what's your verdict on it? What did you think of the game, mate?
I mean, I thought we played really well yesterday. I was actually surprised how well we played, but no, I think we genuinely do that under Brendan. Look at last season, maybe Manchester City and Chelsea as well. So no, I'm pretty happy with where the squad is. I do think there still needs to be certain places where we need to strengthen, but I think the squad's looking pretty well at the moment. And obviously, you guys have spoken about it, but I thought the new Japanese left, but he actually looks pretty well yesterday. I know Brendan Rodgers said about 2 weeks ago that he's not planned to be part of the first team, but I don't know if he might be changing his mind a little bit.
I mean, I think with the game time he's given him recently, I think Brendan has maybe been a bit swayed. Obviously, after the game against Cork, we were like, holy shit, this boy's a bit of a player. Like, you know, he was even like coaching Austin Trusty kind of through that game a wee bit as well. And obviously plays yesterday against Newcastle was a very impressive performance. So, yeah, Regan, I think you've got a point. And I think your Greg Taylor replacement, as it were, is kind of in the door. And this guy could be, I know, a massive understudy to, I mean, don't tell Liam that, he'll end up losing his nut. But,
I know there was talk about a Portuguese left back last week. I don't know if Brendan Rodgers is possibly putting that on hold, but
Beninzo or something like that.
Aye.
Nazinho, Flavio Nazinho. He sounds like a baller just from his name alone, but we really shouldn't judge it on that.
I mean, like Celtic signing a player, you know, that we're linked with, you know, this seems relatively good and like a decent kind of buy, as you know, as likely as me, you know, getting a season ticket for Rangers is just probably never going to happen because, you know, the way that we kind of seem to operate as a club. But Phil, it looks like your prediction for the pre-season treble is on, mate. Have you got a wee bet on it? Have you got a wee bet on it? Have you got anything like that on it? No.
Alas, no bet on it at all. Because if I bet on it, it probably wouldn't happen. I'm the worst gambler in the world. So I've not put a bet on any sort of football in a long time before because I was so rubbish at it, and I was like, I can't do this. So yeah, nothing on there. But I did laugh at the Adidas trophy. Literally just a symbol about that side. I was like,
I thought it was a cup. I thought it was a cup. But then I looked back on the post, and I was like, why we're playing in the Adidas Cup? Why isn't it a cup? But then I looked at it, it's just called the Adidas Trophy. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. But it's literally just a tiny little Adidas symbol. Does it even have Celtic's name engraved on it? Like, what is it? Like, does it?
It wasn't even the trefoil symbol as well. They could
no, it was
like, the fancy trefoil.
No, just the three stripes. You're like, I mean, fair dues. It's something to put in the trophy cabinet. It's something you can tell your grandmates. We won the first Adidas Cup. You know, I was there. You know, to beat Newcastle. You know, I'm sure that will go down in the annals of Celtic history, along with the Fabergé eggs made for Jimmy Johnston and that. You know, but
the 10 and 6s. There's one. You two boys are probably too young for that, but the 10 and 6s. I wonder if Celtic have still got the trophy there for that one.
But yeah. So moving on from the game against Newcastle, I feel we've kind of covered that kind of relatively thoroughly. You know, besides absolutely hammering them and humbling them, there's not really much else we can kind of say, I think. But it looks like we have a couple of outgoings, Regan. So, you know, it looks like Luis Palma is away to Lech Poznan in Poland with an option to buy. And it looks like Marco Tilio is reported by Sky Sports to be on his way to Rapid Vienna with a obligation to buy for 1.5 million euros, with it reaching to 1.75 million, I'm sure, possibly in a performance-based bonus. So that would actually end up making us a tiny little bit of profit on top of Tilio if that was to come through. Because I think we only paid about 1.5, 1.4 for him or something like that. But Regan, is this good business? You know, is it something that you're in favour for? Because it seems like Celtic as a club, they're very, very good and capable when it comes to shifting the deadwood out of the club. They seem to get them deals like that. They seem to be, you know, on fire when it comes to shifting players that we have no longer need for, that are surplus to requirement. But I'll ask you, why is it the Celtic are so good at shifting these deadwood players, but why can't they do it on the flip side when it comes to signing players and getting good players in?
Because we think we can do things on the cheap. that's pure and simple, because they go back to the model of signing Lee Alabada for 2 million, signing Beaton for 2 million, signing Victor Wanyama for a million, Beram Kyle, people like that, you know. But I would also say that Celtic are making loads and loads of money, so they're still in profit, but by the end of the window, and people are buying their season tickets. So I think it's so important that the club strengthen the squad, because I do think there'll be a stronger challenge from Rangers this season, and also I do think there will be a stronger challenge from the rest of the top flight. And I also think this year will be even tougher in European football as well, because if you look at even teams like Manchester City are spending to bring in players, look at Jeremy Frimpong going to Liverpool. I think there's so many clubs that are strengthening, so Celtic need to strengthen. And I think as well, I read somewhere that Jota possibly could be out till 2026, and not just January. It could be longer than January. It could be possibly March. So you're talking a long time, you know. So I think it's so important that Celtic get two wingers, because I know James Forrest is a good player, but Brendan Rodgers even last season played James Forrest possibly for about 10-15 minutes. So it's so important that we get two wingers. And we've still not replaced Kyogo, and possibly I think we'll get rid of a few midfielders, because don't forget Kwon and Thiago Homa still in the books. So we still need we still potentially need another midfielder as well.
I do think they're possibly on the out as well. I think Yang also may potentially be getting put on as well. So they need
See, that's something I want to talk about, because I spoke about it to Terry last night. And see, that's a thing I want to speak about, because Yang is somebody that kind of, I don't know, it's a strange one, because I see Yang one week and it's pretty bad, but then I see him and then you see him against Dundee away and he plays well, and then you see him against St Mirren and then he plays well, and then you don't see him again for the next 4 or 5 weeks. So I don't know what you guys think, but do you think Celtic should sell Yang, or do you think we should keep him for a wee bit? Or?
I mean, I think personally, mate, that I think he's got potential, but I think potential can only take you so far. I do think there is attributes there which would make him a good signing for other clubs as well, but I don't know if he's got like the physicality or the footballing IQ really for this. But then he does goes and prove you wrong. I mean, even that game at the end of the season against Aberdeen at Petrodi, where we absolutely scurried him, he was absolutely rinsing, their players and that, and had an absolute, corker of a game. But I mean, Phil, this kind of all goes back to the whole talk about, balancing the books and stuff like that, because like we are run by a bunch of guys who like to wank over spreadsheets and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Like nothing gets like Peter Lawwell harder than a profit margin. That wee green arrow going up is like a pill of Viagra. It's like a blue rhino to him. Do you know what I mean? So
a green one in this case.
But it's it kind of just goes to show that we are run by like strictly profit-driven individuals. But then I'll ask you, Phil, would it not also increase the profits to bring in better quality players, maybe signing them for higher fees, bringing them in, but the potential for the selling, if you turn out to be good players and getting us wins in the champ, like being able to perform in the Champions League, get us through knockout stages and stuff like that. You have to speculate to accumulate. So do you not agree that if Celtic do take that kind of next step in terms of their signing strategy, that it could also work out well for these guys who, most important thing to them is a bit of profit?
It's all just a big cycle, really. We need to be in the Champions League. We just need to now in the new format. We can't afford to be missing out. And we're in a position this season where we have to qualify, and it's a lottery, that's the case. But yeah, you buy better players in order to make it every season, and then if you perform there in the Champions League and those players that you spent big on are performing at that level, then by all means they're going to attract interest and you're going to make a profit. And the better they play and whatnot, it'll just keep on going up. It's just like the model we're doing just now does work, and obviously the profit margins are huge where you sign like a 2 million player and can then sell them for like 50 million, 70 million, whatever it was we did with Nicholas Kuhn recently. I think it was only about 2.5-3 million we bought him for 18 months ago, and then we've sold him for 17 million. But it's like, imagine, say Arne Engels is probably the best option. If Arne Engels can have an absolutely blistering season this season, that 11 million that we spent on him, in 2 years' time, if he has like 2 really strong seasons in a row here, could be 30-something million. It's not outside the realms of possibility. So it's like, yeah, you just keep on, you just move up. But it feels like there's, I don't know what it is, Celtic, because I think there's a quote doing the rounds recently, Conor, from Peter Lawwell saying that if we don't spend it, we get taxed on it. And I think the club had to pay like 6 million in tax or something recently, just for the money that they've got accumulated. And it's like, well, if that's the case, then surely you need to start spending it. Surely that makes all the sense in the world. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the club themselves don't believe in the scouting system, which is worrying because we did change our head of recruitment in the last year. Paul Tisdale took over. And it's like, if that's not a ringing endorsement, if they don't have if they don't trust them at this stage, because this is his first summer window. So I was quite intrigued to see how it would go. But up to now, it's like, yeah. On your
the big thing for me was about 2 weeks ago. And I think Sky broke the news that Celtic missed a clause in Vivitska. Basically, he would have cost Celtic 6.7 million.
Mm-hmm.
Surely Celtic should have been aware of that.
I think that transfer, Regan, I don't think Vizcarton was even interested in us. I'm not going to lie, mate. The stories surrounding it, the things that I've seen in some of the media outlets and that were saying that he was never interested at all in coming to Celtic. It was a lot of paper talk. It was just, doing the usual thing, being peeping toms and looking from afar and thinking, oh, they look quite good, and not actually taking that step to pursue him. I think he maybe heard a wee bit about Celtic having interest, but, I don't think there was any interest at all, to be totally honest. We didn't even really put in any bids of that at all, did we? Because the reported figures were what they were about. I think they were about like 8 to 10 million that Brondby were wanting. Obviously, it looks like he's went to Norwich for about 6.5. Because if the reported figure was 8 to 10, Celtic would put in a low ball offer of around about like 6 to 7. And that looks like it probably would have been enough to get him over the line. So, in my thinking, I don't think he was ever really interested in coming to Celtic.
To me, that probably just makes January even more of a laugh because people were saying that the big part of the reason why we didn't bring a striker in was because Vivitska would cost 12 million or 10 million, whatever. Do you know what I mean? But especially because Kyogo was so important to Celtic and what we'd done, and it was so important to the pressing to score in big matches as well. So I'm just so surprised that Celtic have still not replaced Kyogo.
Yeah.
Well, obviously they've signed a new striker now in Shin Yamada, Phil, and he looks like a decent player. He's 25, coming in playing for Kawasaki Frontale in the J League. He's got quite a good goal scoring record. But the thing that piqued my interest was this stat that came out, and it was that they done tests on him, and they test to see the different players' speeds and stuff like that. He is reported to be actually faster than Daizen Maeda. So that, to me, if he comes in and performs well, knock on wood, but comes in, performs as good as what he could do, and he's up top playing alongside Maeda next season, and maybe somebody on the right with a bit of pace as well, whoever that may be, that could be a potentially absolutely frightening front three, especially for the cloggers that play in the SPFL, because let's not beat around the bush. They're not the most fast and athletic players playing for the likes of St Mirren and Kilmarnock, are they?
I can think of a certain Rangers player as well that might be having nightmares about the idea of two very fast Japanese players running at him now, because I do believe last season Rangers moved Tavernier into the middle of the defensive line at times, and Maeda moved into the middle for the forward line for us. So it's like, well, if we've got Yamada and Maeda covering a wing and through the middle, well, you're no escaping now, are you, Tav? But one thing he's going to have to avoid is I hope he's got good positional awareness, because as good as Kyogo was, that was something that always caught Kyogo out at times, just being aware if he was onside or offside. If this boy's as quick as what he is, and knowing Conor how they draw the lines here when it comes to VAR, those Alan Moore squiggly lines, you'll need to look out for that one. But I was encouraged by it. I know when I saw that stat as well on Friday, that I think pace is just so exciting for a forward as well. You know, it's something that will get you up off your feet when you're watching them live. You know, when they're running through on goal, you see Maeda when he does it as well. When he just gets away from somebody, it instantly gets you sitting forward in your seat and whatnot, because you know something explosive is about to happen. So the idea of having two up front, it does that does actually excite me. I know last season 2024 he had a very good sort of numbers out in the Japanese league in terms of goals. This season obviously it's not been that good, but he's clearly got it in him. And yeah, I think if you've got pace to get by, as you say, most of the cloggers up here, then I think I'm excited by it. So I want to see it. Plus, there's a wee bit of me as well, boys, just out of spite at the moment. As much as I love Brendan Rodgers, and I'd say I'm a big Brendan Rodgers fan, with some of the comments he's made recently, I say you don't usually see a football manager, you know, they get a new player in, and usually the instinct will be, oh, I'm so delighted we got a man in, this is the strengths he'll bring to the team. Some of the stuff that he said recently about a couple of the new signings, obviously I'm like, just out of spite, I kind of hope Yamada does really well now, just because I'm not very impressed with the way Brendan's went about it. And I'm like, you know, maybe honesty is the best policy in his mind, when he's thinking, I'm not fooling anybody by pretending that I sanctioned this one. But then at times it's like, Brendan, maybe you want to tone it down a wee bit, because you're worrying us with stuff like that. So I'm really hoping that Yamada does, pardon the pun, hit the ground running here.
I mean, yeah, because I mean, you have to give the players a chance. You know, if you look at it, Regan, Inamura came in, there was not a lot of fanfare about his signing at all. It's not Yamada, sorry. Inamura came in, there was not a lot of fanfare about his signing. We were all like, what the hell are they doing? Like, what's going on? Why are we signing him? He's came in, he's played a couple of preseason games, and he's impressed. So with Yamada, I do think there is potential there for him to start off, you know, like an absolute rocket, and, you know, hopefully plug that, you know, ever widening gap that Kyogo's left since he departed. But I mean, like Phil was saying, he's going to have to watch those offside lines that resemble fucking curly whirlies in this league, mate, because, you know, we know what the VAR's like. So what's your opinion on the Yamada signing, mate? Are you enthused by it? Do you think, cool, it's a bit of a stopgap, but we should be going for better, or are you quite happy with where it's looking now?
I think Celtic as a club will have their signings, but I mean, I particularly don't mind these signings, Conor. But as long as Celtic then back Brendan Rodgers with his players, see, as long as they can bring in a sprinkle of like board signings, I would call them, and then Brendan Rodgers signings, I don't mind it, because if you look at players in the past who you would say are sort of board signings, a lot of them have actually worked out not too bad. So. I think as long as Brendan Rodgers, he as I say later on in the window. See, like last year when we brought in legs of Adam Maeda, Paulo Bernardo, Jota, players like that. See if we can get Brendan Rodgers type players in, as well as a lot of these board type players. I'm not too bothered, because I think, like you say, like with the new Japanese striker, I think Celtic's track record in Japan's been pretty great so far. I mean, the only really player that's really no word to is it Yahoki, or what was his name again?
Kobayashi.
No,
Kobayashi didn't work. Edeguchi and Kobayashi, but the two
Edeguchi.
Yeah.
And Kobayashi, he didn't work either.
Kobayashi.
He was
And
bad.
if you want to, you know, nitpick, Iwata didn't necessarily work out either. So you could maybe argue Regan.
I thought Iwata was okay, to be honest.
Aye, but you have to be a bit more than okay to play at Celtic, my man. You know, that's kind of the way that we have to roll. I mean, you can maybe argue that we've had more misses than hits in the Japanese market. Well, maybe 50%. Hatate, Kyogo, Maeda, Ideguchi, Kobayashi, and Iwata, didn't work out obviously. So, it's kind of a 50-50 success rate.
I'll tell you what, guys, for the moments that Daizen Maeda and Kyogo have managed to savour us Celtic fans for the last few years, I would take it, Conor.
I know, 100% I would. I would rather if we took 6 misses, but 3 of the hits turned out to be absolute ballers. Like what Hatate, like what Kyogo, like what Maeda has been. Like I'll take that all day long because, like we said, Celtic is a club who seem to be very, very on the ball with shifting the deadwood. So they could do that, no problem. Let's be totally frank. But Phil, it looks like we could have our Nicholas Kuhn replacement in the door relatively soon. Looks like the ongoing saga of Michel-Ange Balaklisha could be coming to a close.
I hope so. Yeah.
With him set to come in the door, I think relatively soon. I think they're progressing quite nicely, but there is obviously the concerns around about his injuries. I mean, to me, with the injury record, it looks like he's got as much physical integrity as a bit of a soggy Weetabix. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is the kind of guy that is going to come in. I mean, he looks like a very good player on paper, but with our injury problems and now, like Tierney will more than likely have injury problems this season. Carter Vickers is going through one now, and we'll probably have some later on the season. Jota's out till next year, more than likely. I wouldn't be surprised if Callum McGregor or Hatate or someone like that picks up an injury this season. To me, it's like, is that a risk, we should be taking, or should we be going further afield looking somewhere else?
Well, they seem to have been scouting him now for a couple of windows, so I feel like Celtic have now gone too far into this now to not push through with it. I don't know, Regan, if you saw this a few weeks ago, but I tried to channel my best Regan Stevenson by predicting this. Remember last year with your Adam Maeda prediction, where you got it, one day out, you said in the middle of June, out of nowhere on a Tuesday ticket, you went, Adam Maeda will sign for Celtic on the 15th of August, and he signed on the 14th. So I thought, I'm going to do my Regan. I'm going to predict that Balaklisha will be a Celtic player, but it will go down to the very last hours of the window pretty much. But then, of course, as Conor says, there's stories coming out that it's going to happen, but then typical with Celtic, it just gets pushed a little bit further in front of us, out arm's length. So right now, I don't know where it is with Balaklisha in terms of if he will be a Celtic player or not. I really hope it does get over the line. But I'm not basing it on anything, just on the fact that, Celtic have scouted him for a couple of windows. Then they obviously want him. They must see something in him. The injury record thing, I don't know. I mean, Kieran Tierney's coming in with an injury record and whatnot. It's the risk that you take. Injuries can happen anywhere to any player. So I don't know. I think we need to address this pretty soon. We need to obviously start getting some players over the line for half decent transfer fees and start, filling out those spaces in the squad. We can't. The manager keeps making noise about we've lost in the last year Matt O'Reilly, Kyogo, Nicholas Kuhn. Have any of them really been replaced? No, really. So we've not got much time to waste here. So this story, Conor, that Balaklisha might be close. I hope it is. I hope it doesn't go down to the last week of the window. I hope I'm not right on this one. But yeah, we need to get some sort of answer pretty soon, because if I'm in Celtic's position, if I was running things, you can only give them so long, and if it's not going to happen, you have to walk away from the table eventually. But it seems like Celtic are just pinning everything on this guy. So there's no other names coming up right now. So to me, it's like it's him or bust, it feels like, with the club. So yeah, I hope they are right, and if he does come in, that they've made the right choice here. We shall wait and see.
Yeah. So speaking of transfers, there is another potential outgoing. It looks like Brentford, Regan, are sniffing around about Daizen Maeda, and the reported fee that Celtic are kind of in the ballpark looking for is around about £25 million. To me, that is far too low for a player of Maeda's quality, and every single other attribute that he has. However, on the flip side, there is a journalist who, I can't remember his name, unfortunately, specialises in discussing Asian football, has suggested that Celtic are preparing to offer Daizen Maeda a new deal for a contract extension.
Yeah.
So two very conflicting reports coming out today over the last 12 hours or so. So what I will say, Regan, is if this is true, that Brentford are going to come in for, Daizen Maeda, they are very, very interested if this all turns out to be, on the up and up. What do we do? Because to me, Daizen Maeda is irreplaceable. He's an irreplaceable
Yeah, I don't think
part
you.
of this team. He is, he is the gear and the glue that holds this team together. His pressing, his defending, his attacking, the fear of God he puts into defenders, not even in our league, and in European football as well. The fact that, he is such a team player, consummate professional. For fuck's sake, the guy does fucking push-ups on the sideline after being subbed off, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean? Like, the guy's just an absolute machine. I mean, he was meant to be rumoured to be out with an injury. Was it last season for about 7 weeks? Came back after
He
2.
was back.
You know,
in a matter of
he's
weeks.
like he's like the Japanese Superman. Do you know what I mean? He just comes back after after these things that doesn't seem to phase him one bit and doesn't even seem to, affect his ability in any way. But obviously, if this is true, like what do we do if he does go, and how hard should Celtic be doing to try and dissuade him from a potential move away and trying to keep him, with the team?
Personally, Conor, I don't think Brendan Rodgers would allow Maeda to go in his last season. I don't think that's a possibility. I think he's let potentially one player go. And Nicholas, I think he made that clear in the St John's game that some players weren't interested. I think now just looking at it, I think Brendan Rodgers might persuade Rio to stay on one more year, and Maeda too, because I just don't see how Brendan Rodgers really survived with being Celtic manager and winning trophies without these two players. Because if you look at it, it's okay saying, well, we might get 20 to 25 million, but I mean, it's so difficult to replace these guys. And like for every Daizen Maeda, you can get a Kyogo, but for every Daizen Maeda, you can get a Patrick Kamala or Mo Bangura, So, I mean, I remember being so happy we signed Bio. Remember when they brought out the
Bio,
half
yeah.
time and they put him in the floodlights and that.
they brought
Yes.
I was at the game and I'm like, yes, this guy's going to be amazing. Disco lights are on, everything's going well, and then the next thing,
Regan, was he in the last window of Brendan Rodgers? Was that when Neil Lennon had taken over full time? It was Lennon.
No, he was last window.
It was
Brendan
last
Rodgers,
window of
sure.
Brendan, wasn't it? It was. Aye. 'Cause he didn't really start getting a game until Lennon became manager.
Did he not go down to Watford and become like
He's
quite a
playing
good
Watford
player?
now.
Playing
Playing Watford now. He's playing well, eh?
Aye, which
So bad.
just goes to show you that it's a bit easier to play down south than it is up here, eh?
Of course, yes.
Aye.
But yeah, so what you saying,
but
Regan?
I just don't think that Brendan Rodgers would allow the Celtic board to let go of Maeda at this point, Conor. I think he's far too important to the team. Okay, you can say Celtic might get 30 million or whatever, Conor, but it's more important that Celtic can make 40 million in the Champions League, so they can make it back. So it's not imperative that they get the money. We're not in dire straits. We're not like Rangers or like any other club. We can be financially stable. So I think it's so important that we keep these players at the club because, and also, I mean, I think if you're Daizen Maeda, I mean, I think he's totally enjoying his time here. I don't think he's had any sort of indication that he's looking to go. Even if you look at Kyogo, I mean, Daizen Maeda was never putting out in the press that he wanted to go. He was always happy here. So I don't see there being any problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very true. I mean, to me, if this was something that was to happen, I already said that the lack of transfer activity is something that is more than likely going to fast track Rodgers' departure from the club. If you were to sell Maeda, for one, sell him for a price that's not.
Brendan Rodgers. I think if you sell Maeda, Brendan Rodgers could potentially walk.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
If you sell Maeda and you don't replace him with 2 or 3 quality players, I'm talking you reinvest that entire transfer for him back into the squad, Rodgers would be off skate. And I don't think anyone could blame him. Not one Celtic fan could look at him and say, "Oh, why the fuck are you doing this?" Because he did say it last time, he was here when they left him, to Leicester. He said one of the things that was getting on to him and that, made him leave was like they were just passing about with the signings, signing players he didn't want, not forking out money for guys like John McGinn, the Italian defender that he wanted as well. Guys like that who he wanted to improve Celtic. He wasn't like checking like to get his ticket punched and fuck off into the sunset and take a run out the back door. It just got all too much for him dealing with the absolute charlatans that are our board. And if this is to come to a head and I fingers crossed it doesn't, I pray to God it doesn't. If this is to happen, then he is off ski, and whether that's in January or whether that's at the end of the season, all goes down to how Celtic acquit themselves in the next few weeks of the transfer window. This is a monumental key time in our season. How the next few weeks goes, I know we just beat Newcastle, we can look good on the pitch and that.
And I think another point,
very competitive. The next few weeks is, I think, defines your season.
Yeah,
definitely. And sorry, Conor, I'm just going to say there that I think as well. See if you're Daizen Maeda and you're also real as well. All you need to do is talk to Kyogo and go, look, is it worth my while to leave Celtic? I'll tell you right now, Kyogo would be on the first plane back. He definitely would. I just think that as soon as he changed his management and stuff like that, then you knew that they were looking for a move, because that's what they do when they change management. They know that a transfer is going to be available. So I just think sometimes that we can talk about these players potentially leaving, but I think it's only when they potentially take a few months out and they leave Celtic and they go, "Oh my God, I don't know what I've done there," because it was definitely the wrong move.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna just have to hope and pray, that these are all, alternate reality shenanigans going on, and they don't come to pass. But Phil, Celtic now, it looks like we're on our way. We're going to Italy to compete in the Como Cup against Ajax, and if we beat Ajax, we'll go into the final, where we'll play either Al Ahly or Como. And if we don't beat Ajax, we go in for the result of third place. So, Phil, are you looking forward to the competition? Do you have any predictions about what's potentially going to come up? Like, I don't know personally how Ajax are performing. I know they lost the league on the last day to PSV, which was beautiful scenes to see, because I absolutely detest Ajax as a club. I think they're fucking scum. But yeah, do you have any predictions? What's your are you looking forward to it?
I imagine it'll be on Celtic TV anyway, so can I really look forward to it without a fire stick? We shall see. But no, I mean, again, we're doing okay just now in pre-season in terms of playing these level of teams, so I think we just go in again and just play our game. Brendan's clearly working his magic in some capacity. He was glowing after the game on Saturday, talking about the ideas he's been trying to implement over the pre-season. He's starting to see them come to fruition. A lot of the same things that he said this time last year after that good run of results against City and Chelsea and whatnot. So we're on about a lot of confidence right now. So yeah, we'll go in and hopefully some of the new guys again that have joined can get more minutes in the legs and impress. And again, some of the B team guys that have been kind of getting filtered into the team, like one guy whose name hasn't come up tonight, and Dane Murray What an absolute unit he's turned into, by the way. Like, you've seen the pictures of him at training. I was like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Because I know it's pretty much been confirmed by Brendan that Dane Murray will be the understudy to Carter Vickers this season. But when I saw like how much he bulked up, it was dramatic, and I was like, okay, fair enough. He looks like he could deal with the cloggers of this league, you know, these big journeyman strikers that he'll come up against. So yeah, and again, it'll be the players around him having time. So guys like that, you know, if they can get a wee bit of game time again, and you know, just further develop and whatnot, it'll be a good exercise for them regardless. I mean, in terms of prediction, I mean, the preseason treble's on, isn't it? I mean, come on, it's on. We may as well just go for it and get that prestigious preseason treble in the bag. But no, I say I'm looking forward to it to a degree. But of course, the real business is 2 weeks away now, so we're counting down eagerly to that. But it'll be a good exercise for them this weekend, Conor.
Yeah, actually, I did speak about Dave Murray after the game we played last. He looked very, very impressive against Sporting Lisbon. I think his passing looks brilliant as well. Like he didn't misplace a single pass. Like, I don't remember if he did. Like he could have done maybe one or two, but his passing looked absolutely fantastic. A hell of a lot better than, you know, Scales and Trusty, and sometimes even Carter Vickers, because Carter Vickers sometimes like to just do the short pass. You know, he's not as adventurous as other people with the passing. But Dane Murray looked as if he's got an eye for a pass as well, and he's also physically developed, you know, very, very well. So I'm quite enthused by, you know, the minutes that Dane Murray's getting and the potential of him, you know, coming into the first team at Celtic and getting minutes and showing what he can do, because he's been impressing in pre-season so far. But Regan, I'll flip the question over to you. You're looking forward to the competition, and are we going to win the pre-season treble before we go on to try and attempt to win the domestic treble? And don't give me that, oh, we don't know what's going to happen. I just want a yes or a no. That's all you're going to give me.
Yeah, I think we're going to win it, Conor. I think we're going to win it. Then I think Cesc Fabregas about wondering why he's bought a Celtic player. He's maybe thinking he should have bought the full team. But I'm just hoping that we do win it, and hoping that we do go up to a strong start in the start of the season, because these seasons they never get boring, even though some journalists were saying it was a tedious title and tedious treble. But I'm looking forward to it every year, especially this year, Phil, as I was telling you the other day. So
yeah, you have now got a season ticket, Regan. You've now got one.
Well
how many years, Regan, did you tell me you were on the waiting list? How long?
I've been on it for about maybe 12 years, I think, Phil, or something like
that.
Jesus, man.
Oh my God.
That's
do you want me to just put this in context for you to make you feel worse about the waiting list? See, in 2007, right? My dad, he'd been working away, like the business he works in, like the welding business, he had to work away from Scotland a lot, like doing in England, but he was finally back up based in Scotland. Remember, he said to me, summer 2007, now that I'm back up the road more often, I'm going to try and get some season tickets. I genuinely laughed and went, what about the waiting list? He literally phoned up Celtic and was like, okay, no problem, Mr. McGinley, boom, done. That was it. That was in the Gordon Strachan era. Obviously, nowadays, that was back in 2007. I was talking about the waiting list. That was a fine back then, but it seemed like it was, but 12 years. 12 years.
I thought I was bad being on the waiting list for 5 years. I mean, 12 years, my God, man. That's absolutely like shambolic. Have you heard the rumour that they apparently lost the season ticket list? Like, they had it as a physical like bit of paper in the fucking booking office, and they lost it. They didn't have it on a file or a spreadsheet, or didn't have it as any backups of that. They just had it on a paper list in the booking office, and then they just lost it.
Of course they did.
Have you heard that rumour?
Because Brendan Rodgers was 2016, so I'm sure I got it maybe a year or two before.
With Ronnie Dyle in charge then, aye.
Yeah.
But fair play for hanging in there, Regan. Persistence paid off. 12 years, man. Fair play to you. Well done. I'll see you at Celtic Park sometimes in this season. We'll have a meet up from time to time.
Well, I'll try meet up these whenever I do manage to get the opportunity or get actual tickets to get to like an actual bloody game. But considering they like to put them out on sale at about 9 o'clock in the morning on a Friday when most people are at their work,
yep,
the chance to be getting some this season besides Scottish Cup games and the odd game against, I don't know, Livingston at home are probably quite unlikely. But Anyway, lads, I want to say thank you very much for joining me this evening. Thank you to all the contributors and all the commenters in the live chat. It's nice to see you all. If I want to just remind you all,
massive numbers tonight, by the way. I want to remind the 121 people who are currently watching live, the biggest number we've had yet watching live since we launched the new channel, to hit the old like button. And if you've only just discovered this, you know what to
Smash the
do.
like button.
Smash the like
Smash
button,
that
smash
like
the
button.
subscribe button, and the
Smash
bell
it.
notification as well. Please do.
Also, don't forget to hit the share button, share it with all your Celtic friends and family and your Rangers supporting neighbours, and maybe share it with a couple of Geordie fans while you're at it as well. That might be quite good if you can do that as well. But I want to say thank you again to Phil. Thank you again to Regan for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure, gentlemen. I look forward to this every time we come and do it. And it's been an absolute blast. Thank you to the commenters, and thank you all to all the Celtic family. And have a good night, and we'll see you later.
See you
Okay,
later,
good night, guys.
Cheers, folks.